Hare Jikare, Stottra Shishimati Nandi Goswami, Isvange Shila Ade Charana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Bhagavad Jai Vishnu Bhagavad Mang Sagare Rajika Stottra Shishimati Nandi Goswami Swami Krishna Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Jai Vishnu Bhagavad Shri Gaura Kishore Swami Maharaj Ki Shri Sachidananda Shri Bhakti Thakur Ki Jai Vishnu Bhagavad Sarvom Jagannath Swami Maharaj Ki Shri Rupa Shri Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhakta Rasa Raghunath Satguru Prabhu Ki Shri Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Braj Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Nilajal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Shri Ganga Maya Muna Maya Ki Tulasi Maharani Ki Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Shri Mati Radharani Ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna Ki Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Shri Balaram Jayanti Ki Shri Balaram Ki Jai Jai Gaura Prem Oh glories to the Assembly of God Oh glories to the Assembly Oh glories to the Assembly Oh glories to Shri Guru Shri Gaura Prabhu
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. So welcome everyone to our special program. Today we are celebrating Balaram Purnim Mahamahotsava. Hari Bol. Baladev ki jai. So now, Prabhuji, could you switch on the light? There's the one above. Yeah. So thank you all for coming. Now we're gonna have a lecture, and today we invited a special devotee, His Grace Krishna Premarupa Prabhu. So I guess most of you know Krishna Premarupa Prabhu. Also a special welcome to Akhandadi Prabhu who came tonight. And the guest from Germany. Yeah? Oh, you're from Cardiff? All right. I think we also have some, so welcome to the devotees from Cardiff. We also have some guests from Germany. Welcome to you as well. So, Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, he doesn't need an introduction for many of you, but still, for the devotees of Cardiff and Germany, I will introduce briefly. Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, he lives in the temple, and he has been serving as a temple president for 14 years. And just last year he gave the service, he handed it over. And he's now on the way of becoming we can say, GBC of the Yatra. And today we're going to hear from him about Lord Balaram. So, Krishna Prabhu, please. Vielleicht müssen wir noch kurz schauen wegen der Sprache. Gibt es irgendjemanden, der kein Englisch versteht? Okay, good. Then no translation.
Hare Krishna. Balaram. So thank you very much for the opportunity to try to speak something on the glories of Lord Balaram. Of course, there could be much said about such a personality. It's not different from the Supreme Lord. I would like to focus on the aspect of how Balaram, the aspect of his strength, Bala. No? Balaram means Bala. He gives strength to the devotees. And this is a very important aspect, especially for us, when we try to take shelter of Lord Balaram. There's a nice description in the Bhagavatam, nice shloka, and especially Prabhupada's purport, which I like to read to start with. This is from the 7th canto in the Bhagavatam, text, chapter 15, text 45. Yavan rikaya ratam atma vashopakalpam dhate garishta charanar chanayani shatam yan asim achyutabalo dadhat astu shatru svananda tushta upashanta idam vichayat. As long, translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. As long as one has to accept the material body with its different parts and paraphernalia, which are not fully under one's control, one must have the lotus feet of his superiors, namely his spiritual master and the spiritual master's predecessors. By their mercy, one can sharpen the sword of knowledge, and with the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's mercy, one must then conquer the enemies mentioned above. The previous shloka described several different enemies, such as attachment, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, fault finding, envy, and so on. So these enemies need to be conquered with the help of the sword of knowledge. In this way, the devotee should be able to merge into his own transcendental bliss, and then he may give up his body and resume his spiritual identity. Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita 4.9, the Lord says, Janma karma chamedit yamevam yoveti tattvadaha jagtvadyanam punarjanma naitimameti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the highest perfection of life, and the human body is meant for this purpose. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20-17. Hrideham adyan sulabham sudurlabham plavan sukalpam gurukarnadaram mayanukalyena nabasvateritam puman bhavadim nataretsam atmaha. Prabhupada gives translation, says, this human form of body is a most valuable boat, and the spiritual master is the captain, Guru Karna Dharam, to guide the boat in plane across the ocean of nescience. The instruction of Krishna is a favorable breeze. One must use all these facilities to cross over the ocean of nescience. Since the spiritual master is the captain, one must serve the spiritual master very sincerely, so that by his mercy, one will be able to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. A significant word here is Achyuta Balaha. The spiritual master is certainly very merciful to his disciples, and consequently, by satisfying him, the devotee gets strength from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Guru Krishna Prasadipaya Bhakti Ladapicha. One must first please the spiritual master, and automatically pleases Krishna and gets the strength with which to cross the ocean of nescience. And Prabhupada says, simply getting the weapon of jnana is insufficient. One must sharpen the weapon by serving the spiritual master and adhering to his instruction. Then the candidate will get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then Prabhupada goes on, it's quite a long purport, speaks about that the transcendental situation of perfect knowledge is the Brahma Bhuta stage, And at the end of the day, it's about bhakti. Only by bhakti you can understand Krishna. And Prabhupada quotes the second time, Jarma Karma Jamidibam, same purport. I think after Hare Krishna mantra, that's the most quoted shloka, one of the most quoted by Prabhupada, Janma Karma. It's kind of the vision statement, you know, like if you just remember Krishna, know him, Tattva, you go back home, back to God. And then just read the last part of the purport. Significant in this verse are the words Jnana Asim Achyuta Bala. Jnana Asim, the sword of knowledge, is given by Krishna, and when one serves the Guru and Krishna in order to hold the sword of Krishna's instructions, Balaram gives one strength. Balaram is Nityananda. Brajendra Nandai Sachisuta Hoila say, Balarama Hoila Nitai. This Balaram comes with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and both of them are so merciful that in this age of Kali, one may very easily take shelter of their lotus feet. They come especially to deliver the fallen souls of this age. Papi Tapi Yata Jila Harinama Udarila. Their weapon is Sankirtan, Harinam. Thus, one should accept the sword of knowledge from Krishna and be strong with the mercy of Balaram. We therefore worship Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. And Prabhupada goes on. So the beautiful purport describing how we receive knowledge from Krishna. Krishna mercifully appears and then also speaks the Bhagavad Gita with a lot of transcendental knowledge. But that knowledge alone is not sufficient. We also need the mercy of Sri Guru Balaram to actually apply this knowledge, or compared to a weapon, you know, in order to hold that weapon. I did a research, you know, these Middle-age swords they used. I thought they're more heavy, but there's about 1.5 kg. Not so heavy, it's okay. But still, you know, in order to actually use the weapon, you know, like you need a lot of strength to actually use that weapon properly. So similarly, we get a lot of knowledge. Krishna gives us knowledge, but then how to apply that knowledge? In order to apply, we need strength. And where do we get the strength from? From Balaram, from Sri Guru. So that's the topic I want to touch today. Om Jnana Timirandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Namavistam Stabhitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vedacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the transcendental knowledge that we receive from Krishna has been glorified in the Gita itself in different ways. Different analogies have been used to explain that knowledge. Jnana, transcendental knowledge, has been compared to Jnana Agni, to like a fire that burns karma. And it's described good and bad karma, good karma also. So it burns our karma away. That's one aspect of Jnana. Then Jnana also is compared to plava, to a boat. It's like a transcendental boat that can bring us from one place to the other, from the material world to the spiritual world. And also Jnana has been described in the 10th chapter, 11th verse, as the Jnana Dipa, as a lamp that gives us light. If there is darkness, and if you have a light, all of a sudden you can see. So it is the lamp of the light in the material world, which is dark, full of Maya, but with that knowledge we get light to understand who we are, where to go, what's the aim of life. And then Jnana Asina, it's described as a weapon. In the Bhagavad Gita 4:42, Krishna says, "Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. Interesting term, armed with yoga. I don't know, you take the yoga mat and then you're armed with yoga. What does it mean? Well, it means with a weapon. What weapon? The weapon of knowledge. And with that weapon, what do? You slash, or how is it, to destroy the doubts that are in your heart. You know? And it can also be compared like if you have a garden, and if the garden is unattended for a year, and weeds will start to take over. So the longer you leave them, the harder it gets to uproot these weeds. So similarly in spiritual life, there's many different weeds that can grow while we try to develop and cultivate. And the weeds in the form of doubts and fears that are in our hearts. So sometimes we start to practice Krishna consciousness, and we may have many doubts at some point. Am I missing out on something? No, I have joined this Hare Krishna movement, but I follow all these rules and regulations, and people enjoy out there. Maybe I missed something. Have I made the right decision? Will I be able to continue on this path for the rest of my life? So these doubts might be there, but with the weapon of knowledge, this doubt can be destroyed. So that's this analogy, this picture which is given there. And as we mentioned, in order to use that weapon properly, we need strength. We need bala, and that bala comes from guru. And it's interesting, guru, the word guru means, different meaning. Guru means one who brings you from darkness to light. That's one teacher, gives knowledge. Another meaning is also that guru means heavy. And the opposite of guru is lagu. And the idea is that guru is heavy and we are lagu. And how it means light. Guru is heavy in the sense that guru is loaded with transcendental knowledge and realizations. He's heavy in the sense that he has so much realization and such depth understanding of Shastra and such faith in Krishna. He's very heavy. Heavy in the sense that when Maya blows, the wind of Maya blows, Guru will just stand like a rock, like a mountain, and nothing can disturb his bhakti. But then, those who are not Guru, the opposite is Lagu, it means light, and it's like a leaf in the wind. Maya just blows a little bit, and then whoop, the leaf is taken away. So similarly, the opposite of Guru is Lagu, it means that we are very easily, the conditioned soul is very weak, and very easily is being taken away by the wind of Maya. And therefore, it is so important to take shelter at the lotus feet of Guru, because he is strong, and he can hold us, he can give us shelter. So that accepting the shelter of Guru is such an important aspect, and Balaram, being Adi Guru, he is the original Guru, and he gives us that strength. But in order for us to take shelter, before you go to the doctor, you must realize that you're sick. If you think you're healthy, you never see the doctor. So similarly, in order to really take shelter of Guru, we have to realize our weakness. We have to understand what is our position. And that's also Guru. Guru gives us Sambandha Gyan. He gives us an understanding who we are and what is our relationship to this world and to God, and what is our position. And in scriptures we find so many different ways how the weakness of the conditioned soul is described, right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for example, speaks of 4 kinds of anarthas. The first category is, without going too much into detail, but just to establish this point that what does it mean that we are weak? Some of you may say, I'm not weak, I'm quite strong. So, okay, let's have a look. What does it mean to be weak? 4 types of anartha. One is the hridhaya dharabhaulya. It means the weakness of the heart. Our heart is weak. And it means attachments to objects that have no connection with Krishna. We develop attachments to things that are not really connected with Krishna. The tendency to cheat and find fault in others. Envy, that we envy others. and the desire for prestige. These are all qualities which are, an expression of the weakness of the heart. Then there is aparat, different kind of offenses to the holy name, to the Lord, to the devotees. Jiva, aparat, to the living entities. There is the third category is asat trishna. It's an interesting word. Asat means temporary or not eternal, and trishna means thirst. The conditioned soul has a thirst for that which is not truth, which is only temporary. And that's the material desire for pleasure, sensual objects, desire for heavenly planets, the enjoyment of heavenly planets, the desire for mystic powers or liberation. These are all thirsts for that was his untruth. And then fourth category is tattva vibrama, the illusion about spiritual knowledge, the ignorance about ourselves, ignorance about the position of the Lord, ignorance about the process of bhakti, and also ignorance about the factors that hinder us, the anarthas itself. So these are just some explanation of anarthas, and if you go to the Madhurya Kadambini, we find, even if you want to practice devotional service, then there is many symptoms of unsteadiness. We try to perform devotional service, but then we are very weak in our practice. Symptoms of not being on the level of nishta, that we are lazy and distracted and indifference, disinterest to spiritual topics, tendencies toward bad habits, taste for material enjoyment, so many things. We could go on and on. But the scripture gives us this description to help us to understand we are weak. And we need to take shelter. And that's why the acharyas, they always teach us how to take shelter. And especially in the form of prayers. And prayers is such a powerful and important aspect of devotional service. I remember once in Kirtan, which is at our Bhakti retreat, right? And some years ago I entered into the room of His Holiness Sachinanda Maharaj, and I had an appointment for a darshan. Maharaj was just coming out of the shower and dressing himself, and he was singing some song or some shloka. Then he looked at me, "Oh Krishna Prem Rupa, what would life be without prayers?" What would life be without prayers? And he said it in, we all know Maharaj, in a way he said, like basically, Krishna Prem, don't you understand? You have to pray. Otherwise, what kind of progress you will make in spiritual life? We have to pray. We have to always seek this shelter, and we have to. So basically, what's the difference between a sadhu and an ordinary person? The difference is that the sadhu is one who is always taking shelter. He's always praying. He's always connecting with the Lord. And he always feels himself very weak and lowly, and he always asks for mercy. And that's why he becomes so powerful, because Krishna gives so much mercy to him. Because he's asking for the mercy. Mercy is there, especially Guru wants to give us mercy, but we are not asking for it. And so the acharyas, they teach us how to pray. I found one prayer that I like to share from the Prema Bhakti Chandrika from Narottam Das Thakur, which I just found it very beautiful. Tumi to dayara sindhu adama chanara bandhu mohai prabhu kora avatana pudino asatta bole kamati mingele gile onata kore paritrana yavata jannam mora apara de hoino bora nishkapate bhajinu toma, and so on. Narottam Das says, "O Lord, you are an ocean of mercy. You are the friend of the fallen souls. Please notice me. I have become like a non-devotee, swallowed by the Timingila fish of lust. O Lord, please protect me." What is a Timingila fish? Other translations say, "O Lord, I'm swallowed by the wall of lust." An interesting picture, you are swallowed by a wall. And that wall is manifestation of lust. I'm swallowed by lust desire. Please rescue me, please help me, I'm swallowed. And the expression of timingila, it means the timingila fish, which actually literally means to swallow a wall. And it's described in the Ramayana Mahabharata that there were, in the ancient times, there were these fishes, they were so big that they would actually swallow walls. They were much bigger than walls. So, I'm swallowed by a very big wall of lust. Please rescue me, please help me. That's the prayer. In every birth, I repeatedly offended you. In every birth, I failed to worship you sincerely. No one is as fallen as I. Nevertheless, you are the only goal of my life. O Lord of my life, please do not abandon me. O Lord, you are known as Padita Pavan, the deliverer of the fallen, and you are also known as Shyamasundar. Please do not ignore my appeal. Even if I'm an offender, I think that you are the real goal of life. That is the truth. Please do not neglect me. O Master of my life, please hear my words. And so on. Narottam is pleading, asking for shelter at the feet of the Lord. So this is just one of the examples. Of course, there's so many similar songs and prayers that the acharyas try to make the point that we need to accept, we have to take shelter and ask for the mercy. So now we can ask, why don't we do that? I mean, I don't know about you, but I can talk of myself. You know, how often do I really cry out for Krishna and really ask for help? In some ways, it's quite crazy because understanding my condition, I should cry out. You know? But for some reason, I'm not doing it. So why? And in another song of Narottam Das Thakur, this is explained in the song of Nitai Pada Kamala. No? There it says, Ahankare matta hoya Nitai Pada Pasiriya Asatyele Satya Kori Mani. Being madded after false prestige and in an identification with the body, one is thinking, oh, what is this Nityananda? Or today we can say, what is this Balaram? What can he do for me? I don't care. So maddened by the ahankara. Maddened by the ahankara, I think I don't need the help. Why should I fall at the knees and pray, oh Lord, help me? I don't need that. No. And that is because of ahankara, because we think I can do it on my own. And that's the problem. The result is that he's accepting something false to be truth. If you actually want to approach the association of Radha Krishna, you must first achieve the mercy of Lord Nityananda. When he is merciful toward you, then you will be able to approach Radha Krishna. Therefore, you should firmly grasp the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, or Balaram. So, because of the ahankar, because of our false identification with this body and the mind and our ego, we are too proud to actually ask for mercy. And that's very unfortunate. Because Balaram, Nityananda, they are they're so happy to give us mercy, so much mercy, but we are not asking for it. Like they respect our free will, but because we are not asking, they're not giving. So we need to learn the art of really taking shelter, really crying out for the mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, what is our position? Then Prabhupada also commenting on this, Prabhupada says in a lecture on Nityananda Triyodashi, he says, this is due ahankar. Ahankara vimud atma kartaham iti manvate. Those who are vimuda, as special rascals. The same thing which is spoken in Bhagavad Gita, Narottam Das Thakur says the same thing in plain Bengali language. Ahankare matta hoya. By the spell of Maya Ankara, they are thinking that we are independent. We can do whatever we like. This is called ahankara vimud atma. Under false pretext, false prestige, everyone is thinking that we are independent, we can find out the solution to the problems of life, and so on. So that is our material disease. Prabhupada says this is our disease, that we think I can do it on my own. Bewildered by, they do not understand that the real strength is spiritual strength. That's interesting. Now again, coming back to this topic of bala, strength. Prabhupada says, we see daily that a very strong man, a very powerful man, very good brain, very good scientist. So where is the strength? The strength is Atma. As soon as the Atma or the soul goes out of this body, so intelligent, so strong, so many things, that is nothing. So Prabhupada makes the point that that which gives spiritual strength is the Atma, the soul. That is really, that's important. The soul is important. Balaram is important, not the body, not the false ego. And Prabhupada gives a very graphic example, quite heavy. Prabhupada says, that is the difference between dead man and a living man. A living man is very powerful, very good position, everything. As soon as he lies down, he's lying down on the floor, and if you kick him in his he'll not protest. So where is that strength? Heavy picture, like there's a dead body. Nobody would dare to kick a dead body with his feet, face. No, never would do that. But Prabhupada makes a point. If there is a dead body, if you pinch him, or if you kick him, that body will not react. Why? Because Atma is out. That means spiritual strength comes from Atma, not from the body. Prabhupada gives the example with a motor car, nice Mercedes, Rolls Royce, but when there is no petrol, how the car will move? If there is no driver, how the car will move? That is spirit. Similarly, real strength is spiritual strength. That spiritual strength is Balaram. Bala means strength. Therefore we have to take shelter of the lotus feet of Balaram, Guru Tattva. Balaram means Guru Tattva. Balaram represents Guru. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. If we want to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if we want to understand Krishna, then we must take shelter of Balaram. Without the mercy of Balaram, you cannot understand, you cannot realize your spiritual identification. And then, going on, Narottam Das Thakur has used very strong words. Anyone who is not connected with Nityananda Prabhu, he is a Pashu. Say Pashu, means animal. Basically, one who does not accept the lotus feet of Nityananda, the lotus feet of Balaram, he's not better than a two-legged animal. He wastes his life. So in this way, Prabhupada makes the point we should take shelter. So better to become a dog of Nityananda Prabhu. Then we shall be happy, instead of becoming dog of so many other people. Everyone is a dog. Everyone is searching after to serve a master, but none of them are satisfied, because that is the false master. You take real master, Nityananda Prabhu, you'll be happy. And Prabhupada quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur Tomar Kukur, Bolia Janaya More. My dear Vaishnava Thakur, kindly accept me as your dog, I am the dog already, but I am Maya's dog. I'm not Vaishnava's dog, so kindly accept me. That's the mood. Let me become a dog of a Vaishnava. In the sense of, let me become a servant. Let me accept a Vaishnava as my master, and in this way I will find true happiness. So Balaram, as we said, he is that Adiguru, and it's interesting, we spoke about this before, Balaram is actually not different from Krishna. What is the difference between Krishna and Balaram? They are both the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The only difference is Krishna is black, Balaram is white. Krishna plays flute, like this, flute. and Balaram, he holds a plow. But, and Krishna has a peacock feather and Balaram has a white feather. Otherwise they're same, there's no difference. But there's one difference is there. Krishna is called Sevya Bhagavan, and Balaram is called Sevak Bhagavan. That means Krishna is God who receives service and enjoys, and Balaram is God who does service. He offers service to God. God that offers service to God. That's Balaram. And Balaram is very expert in that. Very expert. And that's why he's Adiguru. He's the original Guru, because he's most expert in serving. And he serves in many, many different ways. In the spiritual world, he expands himself. The whole Dham, Holy Dham, is an expansion of Balaram. Then also in Vaikuntha, he expands as Ananta Shesha. He's the bed of Vishnu. In the material world, from him all the Purusha avatars expand from Balaram in the form of Karadakshai Vishnu, Garvadakshai Vishnu, Kshiradakshai Vishnu. These are all expansions, and they are responsible for the creation of the material world. And then also as Anantashesha, he holds the whole universe on his hoods. So in so many ways, Balaram serves, and then also Balaram expands himself in paraphernalia. Like we say, all the paraphernalia that we use in the service of the Lord are also an expansion of Balaram. Krishna's crown, Krishna's flute, all the jewelries that Krishna has, Krishna's clothes, the bed, shoes, everything is an expansion of Balaram. So Balaram is extremely enthusiastic about service. There's no one more enthusiastic about service. Sometimes if you live in a temple, especially the temple commander, you ask him, Prabhu, can you clean the temple floor? Oh Prabhu, I already have done 2 hour service today. It's a bit too much for me. But Balaram, he's extremely enthusiastic. Balaram always wants to serve. He serves in so many different ways. So that's why he's Sevak Bhagavan. He's God that shows by his own example how to serve. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Adi Lila, in the fifth chapter, Nityananda is glorified, explained, and then Advaita Acharya, and both, it's the same, Balaram. And there is beautifully described this mood of seva, that seva bhav, or that seva abhiman, like that identification. I am a servant of Krishna, and I want to serve. I have a desire to serve. And actually, this is what Guru teaches us. When we come in touch with the spiritual master, the spiritual master changes our vision. We have this bhogya darshan. Whatever we see, we think it's meant for my enjoyment. But then Guru gives us a different vision. He tells us, no, sevya darshan, whatever you see, it's meant for the service of the Lord. And there's so much enthusiasm in the service, and there is described, Krishna dasa abhimane ye ananda sindhu koti brahma sukanae tare eka bindu. And I notice it's 8 o'clock, so I guess soon there will be prasadam served. And prasadam is also seva, so we can be very enthusiastic about serving prasadam. I will just wrap up and come to a conclusion. So in this shloka it says, the conception of servitude to Shri Krishna generates such an ocean of joy in the soul that even the joy of oneness with the Absolute, if multiplied 10 million times, could not compare to a drop of it. Okay, now there is different kind of pleasure in this world, but then there is Brahmananda, like the pleasure of becoming one, or basically the pleasure of being freed from miseries in this world. This must be so ecstatic, But that Brahmananda, it's nothing. Even if you take one drop of Sevananda, it's 10 million times stronger than this ocean of so-called Brahmananda. There's so much bliss in service. And then it's further described, Bhakta Abhimana Mula Shri Balarame. The source of the sentiment of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansion who follow him are all influenced by that ecstasy. So Balaram is the source of that mood, of that Bhakta Abhiman. I'm a Bhakta, I'm a servant, I want to serve. He is the root of that. And all the other expansions, Baladev, Lakshman, Advaitacharya, Nityananda, Vajreshesha, Shankarshan, taste nectar in mellows of the transcendent bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and servants. They are all mad with the happiness and they know nothing else. What to speak of others, even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotion of a devotee, Bhakta Bhav. So the position of a Bhakta is so glorious that even the Lord himself wants to taste that emotion. What does it mean to be a servant? So if God is very eager to come and taste that, why are we not eager to become a servant? Why are you not eager to serve the Lord? And a very important shloka, and with this there's more, but I will try to stop. Ekla Isha Krishna Are Sava Britta Yare Ache Naichaya Seitache Kalendritya Lord Krishna alone is the supreme controller and all others are his servants. They dance as he makes them do so. So Krishna is the only controller and the only enjoyer. He's the only master and everyone else is a servant. It is a very simple truth. We have heard it many times. But it has a great, if you really realize this, because our problem is that we think that, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, I'm the center of the universe, and I'm meant to be, served. But, the good news is that this job is already occupied by one person, and that's God. He's the controller, and he's the enjoyer. And what is left? That we serve him. That's the idea. That we serve him. And by that service, we get so much bliss, we get even more bliss than the Lord himself. But unfortunately, we want to compete with the Lord and think, no, I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be the controller. And that's so silly. And the acharyas, they come and they teach us, let us become servant, let us become devotees. And especially Balaram, as Adiguru, he comes and teaches that. And in this age of Kali, he appeared as Nityananda together with Gauranga, Gaurnitai, and in this way, pleading and asking us to surrender to Krishna, chant the holy name, and become a devotee of the Lord. And in this way, we can become truly happy. And today, Balaram Jayanti is a very good day to take shelter of the Lord, asking for his mercy, asking for that spiritual strength that we need. We need that strength in order to overcome our anarthas, overcome our bad habits, so that we can truly become spiritually strong. And for that, we need to take shelter of Balaram. So let us take shelter of Balaram, become spiritually very strong, and as Prabhupada emphasizes in this shloka that we read, then we can go back home, back to Godhead, and eternally serve the Lord there in the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, Balaram Jayanti ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gopanande, Hare Krishna. Yeah, those who are feeling the urge for prasadam, feel free. Those who want to stay, if there's some comments or questions, especially comments, we have senior devotees with us, maybe like to comment or share their realizations.
I would have two questions. You opened the class with speaking about the significance of jnana and compared it to the sword of knowledge that has to reveal the Guru being heavy with knowledge. And I was thinking of the Guru Vandana prayers we chant each morning when Srila Prabhupada is being worshipped, and one line is saying, Divya Gyan Ride Prakasito, that transcendental knowledge is revealed by him within our heart. And I was wondering, what does that actually mean? Or how do we get to that point that we truly experience this type of statement? There would be one question.
Maybe we go with that one first, yeah. Okay, what does it really mean that transcendent knowledge will be revealed in the heart, and what does it, it's a good question. What does it mean? Well, to my understanding, because we have so much knowledge, it's kind of incredible actually. If you just be a devotee for a couple of years, you read Prabhupada's books, the amount of knowledge that we get, it's amazing. We have so much knowledge. But then how much have we realized? Well, there's the jnana, there's vijnana. And as soon knowledge is realized, then you live according to that knowledge. And there is no compromise. You really live according to that. Like we are not the body. If you have really understood, there is material life is over. There is no attraction to any material because you have realized it. So, to my understanding, that the knowledge we get from outside, like the jnana, we get in Shastra, we hear it, it's discussed, the Guru tells us. But then, to actually realize that knowledge, for that we need the mercy. And Guru gives that mercy, or gives that realization from within, if Guru is pleased with us. So my understanding would be, the meaning of realized knowledge means that we deeply absorb the knowledge and make our personal realization, and then we are able to live according to that. That's similar to holding the sword and applying knowledge. That's the idea of strength. What does it mean to get spiritual strength? Spiritual strength means that I'm finally able to act according to knowledge. You know, I don't know, Guru tells us, don't eat too much sweets, but you're addicted to eating sweets. But then you get the strength of Guru, and then all of a sudden you're able to control your tongue. And by that strength of Guru's mercy, you're able to become spiritually strong to not take sweets. I'm giving a simple example, but do you agree, or you like to?
I'd like to add something.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a very important aspect of the different ways in which we can know and receive jnana. Because what we're talking about here is knowledge that isn't just mental, it isn't just philosophical. These all things help us to focus, but actually this is revealed in the heart, not jnana, in Smriti of Jnana Apohanam, that Krishna is revealing. It's actually knowledge directly revealed from the Supersoul to us. It has a different quality, a different experience for us, a different effect on us. And that's what we are opening ourselves up to in Bhakti. And all our study is to be able to recognize when Krishna is speaking in the heart. We're like, yes, I've heard that in Bhagavatam. I know that came from Krishna. Whereas our mind is talking to us, and then we hear something from the mind, we say, I heard something different in Bhagavatam. So the study of Shastra is to help us recognize when Krishna is speaking to us.
A beautiful point. Yeah, beautiful point. And I think also when we truly receive that, as you said, that revelation from within, we also get empowerment. That empowerment comes to actually live according to the knowledge that we receive. Not just theoretical. We get the strength to do it. And it's not so easy because material desires are so strong and we are so conditioned. That's why we need to take shelter. That's why I emphasize the point of crying for the mercy. Because then we get it. If we don't cry, we don't ask. We remain empty-handed. But that requires a bit of honesty to see our weakness, and it requires humility to surrender. We have to give up that ego that thinks, oh, what is Nityananda, what is Balaram, what he will do, I don't care. So we need to overcome that part. So you had a second question, yeah.
Thank you very much, also Prabhu, for his comment. My second question relates to the crying for the mercy, and you mentioned how often there's no tendency to do that out of one reason that you mentioned, kind of no faith, and who is that anyway? Some people, or perhaps many people, have this deep ingrained belief that they feel not worthy of mercy. For example, not being worthy of being forgiven and whatever. What would you respond to that? How would you advise or speak to a person where this is the truth?
That one feels not worthy to actually receive the mercy. I'm so fallen, or I'm such an offender I don't deserve. Good question. I would say that maybe if we learn more about the nature of Krishna, how kind and how loving Krishna is, if you truly understand the nature of Krishna, you will understand that actually no, Krishna will want to give me mercy. That's a misconception. Because Krishna is so loving, he's so eager to give us mercy. That may be one possible way to approach that, to hear about Krishna, understand Krishna's nature, personality more, and then by that developing faith that actually Krishna says, I'm Suridama Sarvabhutanam, I'm the well-wishing friend of all living entities. And it's interesting, Prabhupada also quoted that as the peace formula. We spoke before about peace formula includes also Maheshwaram, I'm the controller, and I'm the Bhokta, I'm the enjoyer. That was what I said before. Krishna is the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller. And if I understand this, I can become peaceful, but then also understanding that he's our best friend. And if I truly understand that Krishna actually is really my friend, that gives also peace at heart. Wow, I have such a friend. If you think about it, who is Krishna? Krishna is such an amazing personality. Now we are happy if we get some good friends, right? If you have some nice, I'm so happy I have, Adi Purush is my friend. I'm so happy to have such a good friend. And that gives me so much peace to my heart. I know I have such a good friend. but wait a minute, we have a personality of God and Krishna is our friend. How much should we feel kind of relief, how much should we feel happy to know that Krishna is our friend and we can have that very close relationship with him. So understanding Krishna deeper certainly will give us faith that yes, I can depend on Krishna, I can rely on Krishna, I should surrender, I should trust Krishna. Or like in this song that I mentioned from Narottam Das Thakur, of course this is a well-known thing, he argues, you're known as Padita Bhavan. You know, I'm the most fallen, so please, you know, you should rescue me. That faith, that hope against hope, that although like this prayer of Rupa Goswami, you know, like I don't have bhakti, I don't have knowledge, I have no qualification, but still I hope for your mercy. And yeah, that's important to develop. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. May I give also a comment to
Please,
this question? Is a very important subject, maybe from a, say, psychological or mental, on the platform of the mind. Due to our upbringing and what we go through in our lives, we have different experience, different traumas, and it may happen that we, due to the onslaughts of karma and failures and everything, what happened, we slide into a victim role. And in this victim role, we're like, oh, I'm so poor, I don't deserve everything, I'm the victim. And it's very understandable if you happen to fall into this, because yeah, it's not easy often in one's life. But it's like kind of taking the bitter pill. It won't help you staying there in that mood. You need to do something about it. And we see it in personality development, in business coaching. It's like if you stay in that position, nothing will happen. You will have to get out. And in Bhakti we have the understanding, there's like in Damodar Lila, there's mercy and our endeavor. But what are we endeavoring for? The mercy. And this step we need to do. And if we're in that where we say, oh, I don't deserve it, then it's like it's the bitter pill we need to take, but this will transform into nectar once we make more and more that step.
Beautiful point.
Just to add to that, I think it's a very important aspect. It's very easy for our own material ego to describe ourselves as unqualified for any type of goodness or happiness or mercy. But we should understand that when we're talking about Krishna, as you have been doing, who's such a dear friend, that there is no disqualification that anyone can come up with, practically speaking, that is not going to make you unqualified to receive the mercy, particularly in the form of Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. Their kind of eagerness to shower mercy just overwhelms any type of disqualification that we could ever imagine. And that is the example of Jagannath, of course. Many others.
Alright, I think then we will stop here. Thank you so much. We will now serve prasadam outside. Balaram Jayanti Mahotsava ki jai, Balaram ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gop Premanande.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, just a small announcement. I would like to remind you about our upcoming Jamastami festival in a week, and inspired by Krishna Prema Rupa Prabhu's section of his talk. Balaram, he's the service Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead, meant to do service. And I think he also came to remind us a little bit earlier, before Jamastami, that hey, if I didn't do some seva for a long time, maybe I could do something for Krishna's birthday. So we'd warmly welcome all of you. If you would like to contribute to the festival which is going to take place here in this temple, we have 1 week left, and you can approach any temple devotee, including myself, and we can find some nice service for you. And then we're going to see us on Friday. Hare Krishna. Krishna Prema Rupa Prabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanandi.
The preparation starts tomorrow, after breakfast.
Today?
Whoever has time, please come.
No.
Oh, okay.